My name is Keith Roberts, and we've been asked in our weekly assignment of attending presentation and review to answer 5 questions about the passage that we chose for our sermon. I would like to reread the portion again of our sermon, and then we will answer those questions. Then he went down to Capernaum. This is Luke chapter 4, verse 31 through 44. Then he went down to Capernaum, a town in Galilee. And on the Sabbath day he taught the people. They were amazed at his teaching, because his message had authority. In the synagogue there was a man possessed by a demon, an evil spirit. He cried out at the top of his voice, "Hey, what do you want with us, Jesus of Nazareth? Have you come to destroy us? I know who you are, the Holy One of God." "Be quiet," Jesus said sternly. "Come out of him." And then the demon threw him down before them all and came out without injuring him. All the people were amazed. And they said to each other, "What is this teaching? With authority and power he gives orders to evil spirits, and they come out." And the news about him spread throughout all the surrounding area. Jesus left the synagogue and went to the home of Simon. Now Simon's mother-in-law was suffering from a high fever, and they asked Jesus to help her. So he bent over her and rebuked the fever, and it left her, and she got up at once and began to wait on them. When the sun was setting, the people brought to Jesus all who had various kinds of sickness, and laying his hands on each one, he healed them. Moreover, demons came out of many people, shouting, "You're the Son of God!" But he rebuked them and would not allow them to speak, because they knew he was the Christ. And at daybreak, Jesus went out to a solitary place. The people were looking for him, and when they came to where he was, they tried to keep him from leaving them. But he said, "I must preach the good news of the kingdom of God to other towns also, because that is why I was sent." And he kept on preaching in the synagogues of Judea. The 5 questions that we were asked, I'll address each question, and even in part, and then I'll give the answers to them. The first question was, what is the bad news in this passage? Well, as I looked at that, I could see that demon possession is on the rise. Disease and sickness are rampant, and the sense of despair is prevalent among many of the city. Then the question is asked, what is the good news in this passage? Well, where demon possession power has caused the possessed to lose control over their own bodies, and the one with total authority now has come to release those possessed from their torment. Prior to the passage read, even the best of physicians are unable to keep up with the high demands of those who are suffering and diseased. At best, they practice medicine, they attempt to manage the symptoms, and they try to comfort the afflicted. But the good news is that one has come that does more than practice and manage and comfort. He can abolish the sickness and restore health back into the body. Another question asked is, what are humans doing in this passage? Well, humans are exploiting their vulnerabilities and their frailty, their inability to ward off evil alone. They are showing their meager assistance to those in dire straits. What is God doing in this passage? God is using the stage of human tragedy to spotlight the miraculous power of his Son, Jesus Christ. How many different places or characters can one stand in this passage? In the synagogue, I can stand as a tending priest, or as an attendee, or as a demon and a possessed man. In Simon's house, I can be a family member or a friend standing or attending the sick at their bedside. In the streets, I can be someone helping the sick make their way to Jesus, or be the sick individual themselves. And on the flip side, I can be that same person after my encounter with Jesus, standing as one made clean. I could be of many others who were possessed and made whole. I could be a bystander as I watch all of these miracles unfold around me. And my favorite is, I could be a physician with nothing to do for a change. What intrigues me in this passage, stimulating more questions in my mind. I'd like to know, how long had the man in the synagogue been possessed by a demon, suffering in anguish? Had the attending priest tried to deal with this man before? How many other lives were affected by that single exorcism? His wife, children, family, friends, neighbors. They each had to deal with the possession, and each had suffered alongside him with no ability to help. How many hours was Jesus healing the sick in the streets? Did he go from house to house, or were they in a line, standing, waiting their turn? How many were healed? Did Jesus ever get any sleep once he was alone after daybreak? And lastly, did Jesus' long day with little help have anything to do with him beginning to call his disciples on the next day? And the last question is, what troubles me about this passage creating areas of resistance within me? I'm not sure anything really troubles me, but the presence of demonic possession seems to be much more prevalent in the New Testament than the Old Testament, and they seem to show up at the very beginning of Jesus' ministry. It would be interesting to know what transpired in the spirit realm as Jesus begins to assume his place of authority.